So hello, everybody, and thank you very much for joining us today in this powerful and educational Lunch and Learn. And I just want to remind you that this Lunch and Learn is brought to you by family partners of Maurice in Sussex County. Today is joining us, Andrew Dooley. Welcome, Andrew.
Hi, thanks for having me.
And finally, but not least, this is your host, Patricia Houston. And as always, we do our best to bring topics about resources and services that are relevant to your family's need. So today we're going to learn about the comfort zone camp, right, Andrew?
Sounds good, yeah.
Wonderful. So Andrew is the regional camp director, and he is going to tell us the amazing things that are happening there and how families can benefit from their services and resources as well. But not only that, he's also going to tell us how family can have access to those resources as well. So let's start, Andrew. So tell us about a little bit about yourself and your role in your organization.
Yeah, absolutely. So a little bit about me. I got involved with Comfort Zone back in 2009 as a volunteer. As one of their big buddies, which are generally matched one-on-one with their little buddies. And the program really is amazing. It has a huge impact. And because of that, and it's also empowering and powerful for the volunteers. Because of that, I've continued to volunteer since 2009. I've been to over 70 camps. I've kind of transitioned from a big buddy into a healing circle leader where I actually lead some of the groups. And now just recently, back in April, I've transitioned into a role on staff with Comfort Zone. So I'm now the regional camp director here in kind of the Virginia, North Carolina area. And then Krista is my counterpart up in your area. So, yeah.
Wonderful. And hello to Krista. And thank you very much, Krista, for approaching us as well. So let's talk about what is Comfort Zone, Andrew.
Yeah, so Comfort Zone Camp is a bereavement camp. It's a nonprofit bereavement camp for kids 7 to 17 who've lost a parent or a sibling or a guardian, someone significant in their life. And it's a weekend stay over camp typically, although we have done a lot of different variations of this over the years. And it basically serves these children. We have now some young adult camps, we have parent programs, which are all awesome as well. But basically it's a weekend camp where kids come out, they're matched one-on-one with the big buddy, and they have the opportunity to participate in healing circles 4 times throughout the weekend. These are led usually by a licensed clinical social worker. And the kids in these healing circles have the opportunity to share their story of their loss. And they learn about kind of feelings and coping skills. So one of the things we want to do is kind of set them up with tools that they can take away so that after camp, when they have a tough day and that grief is kind of rearing its head, they have some tools that they can kind of go back to and use. Another really impactful thing about camp is that for a lot of kids, they feel very isolated with their loss because they're at school and they don't always know anybody else at school that has had a loss. Most of the time, kids don't talk about it. It's not very well known. And so a lot of times they feel alone, they feel different, they feel isolated. And coming to camp and just looking around and seeing an entire camp full of people like them that have lost somebody is really kind of empowering thing for them as well.
Yeah, it is beautiful what you guys doing. When Krista mentioned about, how it operates and all of that, I was very happy. I was like, this is something the family really needs. So tell us how it operates, because a lot of people, they don't know how it operates. So will you please elaborate on that?
Yeah, so it happens is campers will register through our process, and I'll get into kind of that process a little bit more in a moment. But we then go through, we have volunteers that are all background checked. They fill out their profiles. We take the information on their interests, hobbies, personality types, sometimes the loss types of our big buddies. Not all of them have losses, but for those that do, we kind of take that into consideration as well. And we look at all these different details and we match our little buddies with our big buddies one-on-one. And it creates a really great situation so that the big buddy and the little buddy are set up for success throughout the weekend. Sometimes some really cool things happen where it's like magic. We come out, yeah, it's really neat. They'll come out, maybe they're both wearing Batman hoodies or something like that. They're just, it's like big buddy and then like mini me, like little buddy. They're just like little twins of each other, and we call it turbo bonding. So sometimes that happens at camp too. But it's a great opportunity. And another thing about the camp weekend is that I tell people that I volunteer with Comfort Zone Camp. It's a bereavement camp, and they're usually like, oh God, that's great that you can do that. I don't know if I could do that. But what they don't understand is that it's a lot of fun. And the weekend, we do have our healing circles, and it does get serious, and they have the opportunity to tell their losses, and it can get emotional. We have the bonfire and the memorial service, which can also get emotional. But it's kind of interspersed with that are a lot of fun activities. We have icebreaker games, challenge course, free time, cabin time, meals, all these different things that we do that are a lot of fun. So I usually tell people I leave camp and my arms sore because I've been throwing the football with my little buddy all weekend. So people think of a bereavement camp, they're just thinking it's this heavy, dark kind of camp, but it's really a lot of fun. And it also, that helps in two ways. It teaches the kids that it's okay to have fun. A lot of kids will kind of get into the moment and they start having fun. They're like, oh, I shouldn't be having fun like my mom, dad, or my dad died or whatever. And so they'll kind of like reel themselves in. So we teach them to be a kid again. We teach them that that's okay. And the other thing is, with that high energy activities and the kind of emotional energies, we break up the weekend. So it's this natural kind of roller coaster because it really mimics more how they grieve. They can't sit in grief for a long time. So we have to kind of transition from these low to high energies, and it really just sort of mimics their natural kind of grieving and processing.
Awesome, that's wonderful. And let's talk about how much does it cost, because that's important for families to know. So let's talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a big question we get a lot. It is completely free. So Lynn Hughes is our founder. And one of her big things was always, she wants to remove any obstacle a child could possibly have to come to camp. She wants to make sure that kids that need this, grieving kids, have the opportunity to come out to camp and get this experience. So it's completely free. It's all run on donations. So we're constantly kind of looking for donations to bring more campers out. We're looking for campers to enroll into camp, and then we're looking for volunteers to make sure that they're there to support our campers.
And now that you're talking about donation, like we are gonna put all the information right below this video for anybody that might want to donate or might want to get in contact with Andrew and his organization. So please, the information is right there. At this point, it is in the chat, but that information is gonna be right below this video as well. So let's jump into what is the process to get approval for the camp.
Absolutely. So there's a couple of different ways that the campers can come into the program. They can go online and fill out the camper inquiry, at which point one of our youth and family coordinators would reach out to that family and help kind of walk them through the process, answer any questions they have. They can also go on and just register directly. Or one of the really cool things for you all that's going to be something that you can use is that you can refer families. So if you're meeting with a family who has a child that is dealing with a loss, that is grieving a loss, you can actually go on our website and refer them yourselves. And then what that does is prompts us to reach out to them the same way that Camper Inquiry does, except it allows you to do that for that family. I just had a friend of mine whose nephew lost his dad several years back, and we talked about the camp then. They never made the steps, but he's been struggling lately. So she reached out again and was like, hey, I think we need to get him into this camp. So she was able to create a referral for her nephew and start that whole process. And now he's all registered to come to a camp and looking like we're going to get him into one of the upcoming virtual camps we have.
Great. And how long does it take, that process, to get approval?
So it depends on when you apply. Because another part of that is that there's you'll do that, you'll kind of do the initial inquiry, then there's an online application process that you'll fill out, and then about 6 weeks out from camp, usually that's when the youth and family coordinator will reach back out for a screening call. So each of our campers are screened, and we kind of go through and kind of look for different information to make sure that we're matching them with the best big buddy, that they're set up to have a successful weekend. And if there's any additional like follow-up with a therapist or counselor, we also do that work. Again, we want to make sure that a kid is ready for camp. And so there's a whole process we go through with that to make sure that they're set up and ready to go and successful for camp. And then from there, after that camper screening, that's when they would be enrolled. And then there's some communication around just kind of leading up to camp one, you're enrolled, and kind of giving you some additional details as far as a camper packing list, or information about like the schedule and different things like that. So.
Andrew, because I'm sure a lot of people, in this call, or probably someone watching this video, they don't gonna know exactly, how it is once you're there. So would you please just kind of touch base on that? Like once you're there, what happened there? Tell us.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So I'll
Uh-huh.
kind of go through the schedule just a little bit. On Friday, the campers usually show up about 4. Big buddies are usually there early. They get there around between 2:30, 3:30. We do a little kind of staff meeting, get everybody prepped. You meet with your healing circle leader. Once the campers show up, some of them really want to be there. Some of them really don't. And so the big buddies are kind of, coaxing them out and kind of working with them. Some are shy, some are nervous. They don't know what to expect. So there's always the jitters that early part of camp. But then we kind of move into dinner. Parents they drop their kids off, they leave. Then there's dinner, and everybody kind of sits together. You get to meet some of the other little buddies in your group. You meet your big buddies. Some of the conversations start. And then after dinner, we go and we do icebreakers, which helps everybody kind of loosen up. It's just fun and silly games. Everybody kind of gets to get out and kind of, again, get some of those jitters out, get to meet new people, do some different things, make some connections. And then we go into a big buddy share. So one of the cool things our program has is we take one of our volunteers that has had a loss, and we invite them up to kind of share their loss. And in so doing, they really model what that process should look like for the campers. And it's really cool because after that, we go directly to Healing Circle, our first Healing Circle of the 4 for the weekend. And campers will come in there and they're like, Samantha shared her story, and it was awesome. That made me feel I have a lot of things in common. It made me feel comfortable sharing mine, right? So it gives them confidence to share their story, but also kind of shows them how. So then the healing circles are where they have the opportunity to share their story, talk about their loss, remember their loved one, or make connections to other little buddies. It's really, really cool. And then we do a little staff meeting where we kind of all break down and kind of check on each other and make sure we're set up for success the next day. And then the little buddies do a little they play games, have some snacks, and it's cabin time. And then the next morning we wake up and we do breakfast. And then we go right into our challenge course. And this is a cool part of the weekend where they're faced with all of these different activities that typically require communication, patience, teamwork, these types of things. And one of the really neat things that I noticed after challenge course is the cohesion in the group. So Friday night, everybody's new, you're still learning and kind of getting to know everybody, you're still a little nervous. But a lot of times after that challenge course, we go right back into our second healing circle of the weekend. And that's where campers just feel more comfortable. They're like, can I share? Can I share? Kind of ready. And they're kind of figuring out their roles in the camp, right? This person's very much a leader, and they talk and they like to kind of, lead the activity. These people are a little quieter and feel more like more comfortable in kind of a role where they're kind of following along and kind of doing that. So everybody's figuring out their roles. And then we have our second healing circle. From there, we go into lunch. And we have free time, which is a lot of the campers' favorite times. It's a lot of fun activities. Might be zip lining, might be rock wall climbing, archery, kayaking, whatever, different things. And then from there, we go into our third healing circle. So again, another opportunity for campers to kind of share their story. A lot of these our campers deal with not just grief from their loss, but there's a lot of life grief. So it may be bullying at school. It might be some of the COVID stuff. It might be cutting. It might be, relationships that mom or dad is now in. It can be any number of different things that they're struggling with or having a hard time with that we can also kind of address and talk about. It just comes up naturally, and it's a safe space. So a lot of times they get into that. So we end up kind of touching on some different things, especially depending on age. It's a little bit different with the itty bitties when they're 7 and 8 years old versus, 14, 15, 17, whatever. And then we go from that healing circle into arts and crafts. And then that's when our big buddies, our volunteers, kind of have a little break. They get a moment. Usually it involves napping, checking your phone, showering that you didn't get in that morning, or sometimes just kind of hanging out and connecting with the other big buddies. From there, we have dinner. And then we go into our evening activity. So it can be a wide array of things. Lots of fun games. Usually we just did a camp in California, and they do a big DJ dance party. So that was a lot of fun. People were just up, moving around, dancing, having a great time. And then from there, we transition to our bonfire. And the bonfire also starts higher energy. We do some repeat after me games and songs. And then we'll do s'mores. So it's a lot of fun kind of activity. And then we transition into the kind of more somber part of the evening, where earlier in the day, usually during arts and crafts or during that second healing circle, campers and volunteers are given a note card where they have the opportunity to write a note to their loved one. So this can be powerful. Yeah. It's usually one of the higher emotional moments of the weekend. Sometimes it just sparks and it's like fire and it spreads to the whole community. Sometimes it can be a little bit calmer and a little more subdued and kind of internal. But campers have the opportunity. You go up with your healing circle, you circle around the fire, you say who you're there in memory of, and you put your note card in the fire. And then from there, after all the different healing circles and had a chance to do that, we transition back up to our dining hall or whatever our big communal space is, so that the campers will again play games and have snacks while the big buddies do their kind of their little staff meeting. And it's amazing to see their transition, and it happens like the walk back from bonfire to that dining hall or wherever that area is. You'll notice they're quiet and they're kind of sniffling and a little sad, and there's processing whatever. And then as you get closer and closer to that dining hall, they just start to kind of, I don't know, perk up. Their energy comes back out, their mood lifts. And a lot of times they're kind of shifting back into that playful kind of mode again. So it's kind of cool to see that. And then we have, again, cabin time that night. We wake up the next morning, we do breakfast, we do our fourth healing circle, which is a little bit longer because we also have to prepare for our memorial service. And the memorial service is, that's like after lunch. A lot of times too, during this time, the campers and big buddies are all signing t-shirts, kind of affirmative, positive messages of "you were so amazing, thank you for supporting me," whatever it is, "you were really brave, I was inspired by you," what have you, these types of messages. And then after lunch, we go into our memorial service. For me, this is usually the most powerful or emotional moment of the weekend, because it always represents the culmination of all the work that's been done that weekend. So the parents are back. It's a full camp-wide activity. Usually each group, each healing circle will go up together in front of it, in front of the rest of the camp, and kind of do something together. They'll say who they're there in honor of or in memory of. They'll do some kind of skit or activity to kind of represent their weekend and what their weekend meant to them, what they did while they were at camp. But it's a really cool thing also because most funerals that anybody's been to, there or memorial services, they're really adult oriented, right? And the kids play usually a bit part, if anything. A lot of times they're expected to really just kind of be quiet and stay out of the way. But this one's really kid focused. So it can absolutely, bring the tears out. Or what's really cool is there are some moments that are just super fun and funny and hilarious, and it's just such a great energy and really cool way to remember their loved one. Sometimes it can be a little bit of both. You're kind of laughing but like crying, and it's I don't know, it's really powerful. But for me, I get to see the campers who maybe didn't want to be here on Friday, didn't want to get out of the car. We had to, it's really hard to kind of pull them in, and now they don't want to leave. Right. And their parents who dropped them off on Friday are seeing a different kid. Now this kid that didn't want to be there Friday is now like, hold on. I want to talk to my friends. I want to hang out with my friends a little bit longer. Right. So it's really cool. Or they may get up during that memorial service, because we do it in groups, but we also allow campers to get up and do something individually. So sometimes it may be something like a little buddy might get up with his big buddy and throw the football or pass the basketball, because that's what he did with his dad that he doesn't get to do anymore. They may sing, they may share a poem that they wrote. It can be they may tell jokes, right? Dad loved to tell, dad jokes. So they get up and tell some of dad's corniest dad jokes. But it's a really powerful thing. And then from there, the families kind of leave, and we have a little staff meeting to kind of wrap up the weekend. But that's kind of the general layout of the weekend, if you will.
Thank you, Andrew. And now that you mentioned in relation to those emotions at the beginning, would you say that's kind of something normal? Because imagine going through all of that, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And we encourage emotions from the little buddies, from the big buddies. We want to make sure that it's reined in. If a big buddy's ever like just losing it, right?
Yeah.
And their little buddies over there trying to kind of comfort them, then we're kind of like, all right, maybe step away, collect yourself. And we kind of we do a great volunteer training. So most of our volunteers who get on, when they come to camp, they're like, oh, I remember in the training, they said this might happen. They said this might happen. And that's one of the things that we teach them in there, is kind of how to manage those, what's appropriate, what's not. But absolutely all different range of emotions are generally okay and appropriate at different times during the camp.
Part of being human, right?
Absolutely.
Awesome, that's great. And let's talk about, because I know, like, I'm assuming you had to meet certain criteria in order to qualify for services. Can you, from top of your head, like, remember, like, what are those criteria?
Yeah, so typically it's going to be campers ages 7 to 17, 18 if they're still in high school. We typically like for them to be at least 3 months out from their loss, because any closer to their loss, they're just really not able to process it in that camp weekend very effectively.
Uh-huh.
So I'd say that those are the main things. Then there you can get into some of the corner cases as far as kind of physical ability and things like that, because we are at a campsite. It is rugged. We have the challenge course. We are moving across the the different campgrounds from area A to area B. So there's that. But there's not a ton of requirements outside of that.
Okay, that's good. And like, if they have any questions, they can just reach out to the organization and
Absolutely.
just ask any questions, right?
Absolutely. And one of the requirements is that a camper is able to function right in that environment, both in terms of the kind of the physical aspect, but also being able to sit in healing circle and listen, pay attention, process, all that kind of stuff. And also making sure that they are not going to be a danger to themselves or others. And we encounter that sometimes. And if that's the case, what we do is we just usually encourage kind of holding off for that camp. And we'll try and see if we can get them into a different camp at a later date when they're maybe in a little bit of a better position to be able to kind of really take advantage of that weekend.
Another thing that I would like you to touch basic is in relation. Let's say, like, if the youth is there and they just want to, like, they say, like, okay, this is not for me, like, because we want to make sure people know they have flexibility or whatever. So what happened in cases like that?
Yeah, so we have something at camp that's called Challenge by Choice. This is a big thing for us. Basically, and I always encourage my little buddies, the more you put into camp, the more you'll get out of it, right? We are not going to force anybody to do anything at camp. We will nudge you here and there. We'll kind of give you a push in the right direction. We'll highly encourage you to do certain different activities. But if somebody really doesn't feel comfortable with something or doesn't want to do something, they're not going to be forced to do it. If somebody really gets there and they just don't want to be, like, we've had campers show up to camp on Friday and not make it through the door, or we've had campers that haven't made it through the weekend. But I would say it's fairly rare. It's kind of a few and far between type of situation. But we take all of those on a case-by-case basis, and we obviously want to make sure that that camper has the right experience, that they're not pushed into something they're just not comfortable with. And also, if you have a camper who just doesn't want to be there and they're that resistant, they can a lot of times disrupt that experience for other campers. So we take all of that into kind of consideration. But typically, once campers get out there, we do the icebreaker games. They kind of get through that first healing circle, a little bit of cabin time. They're usually in it and ready to roll. We do have some homesickness. Usually we encourage, the big buddy or whoever to kind of point to things upcoming that are fun, like maybe it's free time tomorrow, or we have games that we can play now, or different things like that, just to kind of give them something to focus on.
I know that we just discussed, like, the impact that the youth might have once they're there. But I really want to touch basic on that again. Like, what do you see with everybody there?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to share a couple of stats that Krista kind of wanted me to share with you all, and then I'm going to share a personal kind of anecdote that I've seen at one of the camps. And again, I've been doing this for years now. Been a big buddy a bunch of different times, and we also have little buddies that can come back multiple times. So it's kind of cool because you can see that little buddy's growth. So I'll kind of share something about that also. But one of the things, our goal is to continue to have the impact we have seen with each program. Here's some data. 97% of campers agree that they made a connection with another person at camp. 95% of campers agree that they were able to share their story with a group or person. 86% of campers agree that they learned more in depth about grief. 83% of campers agree that they learned coping skills to help them with their grief. So it does have a, quantifiable impact. But more than that, you can see it. And so we have a lot of volunteers that used to be campers, and having conversations with a lot of them, they will tell you it literally changed my life. Some of them said it saved their life, or that they wouldn't be where they are today without it. But I can remember a specific camper who came to camp, very dark, kind of punk looking clothes, dyed hair, didn't want to be there, gruff attitude, was cussing. He was probably 12 or something like that, using language that he definitely shouldn't have been using. Didn't want to participate, was kind of difficult most of the weekend, and then came around a little bit towards the end of the weekend. He came out to camp again the following year, and he was just standing a little bit straighter. He had like lost some weight. He was wearing, his clothes were a little bit different, sharper, cleaner cut. And he was walking, his head was held high. He was like, hey, hey, and he was like actually greeting people. And then the next year it was the same. It was just kind of the next evolution, where he was even more just confident. He was excited to be there. He embraced it. He just was looking and making connections with all these different people, was fully invested in the program the entire time. I can tell you that comfort zone changed that kid's life. It really does have the impact, which is why I've been doing it since 2009, because it is amazing. Volunteers get a lot out of it. Also, I go and I get as much out of a camp weekend as the campers do probably. It's a great kind of perspective reset. So if you all know anybody that's interested in volunteering, I highly encourage you to do that. But from a camper side, like I've seen it literally change people's trajectories, change their lives, and have just the biggest impact.
Wonderful. Thank you, Andrew. I know you have a short video, so I'm gonna play the video in just a minute. So just give me 1 second, everybody, so I can share my screen. Just a second. Let me just play this video. I'm gonna jump into here right now.
You're broken down and tired of living life on the merry-go-round, and you can't find a fighter, but I see it in you, so we gon' walk it out. Move mountains, we gon' walk it out and move mountains. And I'll rise like the day. I'll rise up, I'll rise unafraid. I'll rise up, and I do it 1,000 times again. And I'll rise up, I like the waves. I'll rise up, in spite of the ache. I'll rise up, and I do it 1,000 times again.
About 5.5 years ago, my husband suddenly died of a heart attack. And I had 4 children. My older boys, who are now 17 and 14, they've attended previously, and now I have 2 younger children who are 8 and 7. And so we're here this time for those 2.
Death and the grieving process, that you always think to yourself, this is so unique, no one understands, no one really gets what I'm going through, and to be able to come here, you're surrounded by people who are going through the same situation. It really is, it's life-changing.
I would 100% automatically recommend this place. Just the way people do things here is amazing, and how they handle it and how they comfort you is just beyond what I would have ever thought a place like this could be.
My life was changed in a way that no one has ever done, and to be able to have that given to me and not have to worry about essentially paying for that is something I will always be grateful. The decision to donate to this program is a decision you'll never regret, because you're changing someone's life.
All we need is hope, and for that we have each other, and for that we have each other. And we will rise, we will rise, we'll rise. We'll rise. I'll rise up, rise like the day. I'll rise up, in spite of the ache. I will rise 1,000
I thought that nobody was going to understand the pain that I was feeling, and I was actually pretty scared. And then when I got here, I don't want to leave.
Wow. Wait a minute.
Yeah, that
Wow.
video always it touches some of those emotional spots, and it does a good job of capturing some of the weekend. But I love camp. I've been doing it for years. It is powerful.
What a beautiful cause you guys doing there. Huh? Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, I had to turn off okay. Okay, yeah. All right. Wow. Incredible. Beautiful cause, definitely. All right. So now that we kind of taking a moment to process what we just saw, because definitely it is very touching. So let's go back. Let's go back to contact information, how people can reach out to you guys.
Absolutely. So I put it in the chat over there. I'm going to add something to that real quick, because since I'm in Virginia, you all are going to probably want to reach out to Krista mostly. I'm perfectly fine if you all reach out to us. We do the same thing. We overlap and support each other a lot. As you can see, I'm on the call today, helping her as she's on her way up to Massachusetts for that camp. But there's Krista's email address. You can email us, you can call us. You can also reach out to our website here is comfortzonecamp.org. So we have that. I've also included some little links here where there's a refer a camper or make a camper inquiry. But anytime you all would like to, you're more than welcome to reach out to any of us directly for any specific questions or any help with anything. Then we also have a parent program we do for some of these. So we don't do these at every single camp, but I do love the parent program, because one thing that happens is the kids come to camp, they're talking about their grief, they're talking about their loved one all weekend long. They're kind of immersed in that, they're thinking about it, they're just there, right? That's the space that they're in. Parent comes to pick them up on Sunday, they're driving home, and the little buddy, they either may just pass out because they're exhausted, because it is a long weekend, both active and emotional, or they may start firing questions at mom or dad, and they're like, whoa, like I'm not ready for this, right? So the really cool thing is the parent program puts the parent in that same position, and it really opens doors for them to have more dialogue and to discuss things and kind of process that together, which is really cool. So I like our parent program a lot.
Would you please just recap in relation to the topic that we have today, and then at the end we're gonna allow time for questions. So would you please go over that?
What did you want me to
in relation to the services, how to get contact and all of that? So like
yeah, absolutely. So
short.
our website's gonna be the best way to do that. If you go on there's like a camper page, there's a volunteer page too, but we break it down so that you can go to that camper page. It should be kind of pretty intuitive, but you can go on there, you can make an inquiry, which will have one of our youth and family services coordinators reach out to you all, to the family, I guess, to help them with that process, answer any questions they have. You can refer somebody. There's a link on that page to do that as well. And again, that will trigger the same type of thing where we'll reach out to that family to help them with that process, or they can register directly through that website if they're ready to go ahead and fill out the application and start doing that process. And then that will get them, kind of like start them on that path of getting registered and being enrolled in all of that.
Thank you very much. And Andrea, and just to make sure for everybody to know that it's okay to have mixed feelings, that's why these type of resources are available.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So finally, I just want to say thank you very much to every single person for joining us, and to you, Andrea, and your organization for doing this Lunch and Learn with us, and to every single participant that is joining us. So thank you very much. So I'm going to turn off the recorder, and we're going to have time for Q&A. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful day, everybody.